Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Today we are covering Pearly, and this is going to be our post-banlist Pearly build. I laugh whenever I say post-banlist this season, just because like so many of the hits have been so like not impactful, or not very in the least, but Per Lily is actually kind of another one of those. To be fair, I think of the like consistency semis, this one is probably the harshest, but at the same time, I know there were some Pearly players out there, or at least from what I've seen during research into builds, that just chose to play only 2 Pearly even before the semi limit. So, you know, in that regard, people like that haven't even been affected by this hit. Regardless, I think that Pearly to 2 it's a little bit of a weird hit. I mean, I guess it makes sense, right? Because Pearly's doing decently well. It's not a deck that's going to get new support, so Konami's like, hit it because we can't profit off it anymore. Again, I say it makes sense. I don't say I agree with it though, but in any case, Pearly does end up shaping up to be one of the better decks of this meta. In fact, I would even dare so far as to say that, you know, before the new pack comes out, of course, you know, Pearly is probably just a top 5 deck in the metagame, which, you know, it's funny, you didn't see that much Pearly, but ever since the Duels Cup Top 100 and a lot of Pearly decks show up and its play rate has skyrocketed. On Untapped, before the Duels Cup, its play rate was like about 2%, and now it's doubled to just over, I think it's like 4.2%. So, you know, I last time I posted about Pearly, I even put in the title, like, hey, I mean, I said something to the effect of, like, hey, like, you know, don't sleep on this deck, because I did not hear people ever talking about this deck, and I'm like, Pearly's really, really good, and then, sure enough, again, Duels Cup Top 100 rolls around, and we see, like, I think at least 10 different Pearly lists in there, so, yeah, definitely not a deck to sleep on, that's for sure. Not that I think people really are, especially not at this point, but yeah, so I think the biggest switch up I did for Pearly here is a similar switch up I've done with a few of my decks this season, giving Gamma more of a try. Yeah, historically, I've not usually had the best results playing Gamma, but to be fair, that has also been trying to shove Gamma into like every single deck I play, and the more I play Gamma, the more kind of convinced I become, I don't know. That's the thing, right? Like, I was gonna say the more convinced I become you can't do that, but I mean, you obviously can, because, you know, there are, like, DC Top 100 and or tournament winning or topping, like, Fire King Snake Eye builds, for example, that are on the Gamma. But whenever I play Gamma in a deck like that, where, like, I guess what I mean by like that is a deck not like this where you actually are resolving important effects without any monsters on the field. But like for Fire King Snake Eye, like I tried Gamma in it. It's so bad. It was so bad. It was never live. Like I'm not even talking about drawing Driver. I'm talking about like opening Gamma turn 1 and being like, cool, all right, well this doesn't do anything for pretty much the whole duel now. But anyway, Pearly's not like that. Pearly, like I said, a lot of our plays are contingent on us, you know, starting by activating one of our quick play spells, which will often get responded to with Maxi, with Ash Blossom, so on and so forth, right? So Gamma has more opportunities to come up in a deck like this than it does with a deck like Fire King, or a more typical deck that will usually start its combo line by like normal summoning a monster, right? So yeah, that's the big change as far as the main deck goes. Of course, that is on top of only having 2 Pearly now, which again, apparently some players like optionally choose to do that. So, might not even be necessarily like the biggest hit in the world. But of course, if it were up to me, I would definitely still be playing 3 Pearly in this deck. Well, to be fair, it's not a 2 yet, but just doing some testing and all of that. The field spell, Straight Pearly Street, I'm still convinced is like one of the best cards you can open, which is why I'm on 3. And 3 seems to be pretty standard. Again, I mentioned this, I believe, last time, but I've had people ask me, like, in the comments before, like, hey, like, why do you play 3? It seems like a lot. Aren't you afraid of it bricking? Again, no, because I want to open this card literally every single hand, because the Straight Pearly Street is what lets you get your Exploit Noir up to 5 materials, if you're summoning it through Epperly Noir and Yeep, right? Which most of the time that is how you're going to be pulling it off. Of course, also having your stuff being untargetable on your turn so that you can get Veiled or Imperm is really good. And if you open multiple copies, you know, you can just discard it with one of the quick play spells. It's like completely fine. I say this like almost every time I talk about Pearly, but one thing I definitely do not like in this deck, and that I would never ever play myself, is the Darkhold package. Because that's the thing, like, that's the difference between like the Darkhold package and straight Pearly Street, right? Because some people say, like, you know, it's nice to have cards that want to be discarded in a deck like Pearly that does a lot of discarding. And I understand, like, the mentality behind that. But the thing is, like, these Darkhold cards don't do anything in this deck unless they get discarded, right? They literally don't do anything else besides are good for being discarded. And I don't want to play super situational cards like that, right? I'm fine playing 3 copies of straight Pearly Street because this card has a lot of utility outside of being discarded, and then if I don't need it, I can also discard it. That's another reason why I'm kind of more okay with playing Gamma and Driver in a deck like this, was that even if I do start my turn by normal summoning Per Lily, I can still just pitch the Gamma or Driver for one of the quick play spells. But again, these cards aren't in my deck only to be discarded. They serve another very important function outside of that. I just think that putting stuff in like 3, especially I see people on like 3 Snow and 1 Brow, or like 3 Brow, that's too many. That's far too many. I do see some people on like 1 Shadal Beast, and that's like, that's better. Like, I still don't like it, but I understand more than playing like 4 Dark World cards, 3 or 4 Dark World cards. But again, in general, I would definitely just say that you should just play kind of quote-unquote normal cards, and if you don't need them, then you can discard those for the Pearly stuff. Another kind of common comment that I get is, why aren't you on the Ghost Trick build? It's the best! Well, as time goes on and the deck takes more and more limits, I think the Ghost Trick package does tend to get worse and worse. I think there was a point in time where Ghost Trick was probably the optimal way to play that deck. I also think that time has long since sailed. You could, actually I don't know with Perlia too, you could still play Ghost Tricks, but I'll be honest, the main reason I'm not playing Ghost Trick stuff is because that would be another like 3 or 4, however many URs, and I don't want to craft that. So that's the main reason I don't play Ghost Trick stuff. But also, again, at this point in the game, if you look at the stats, Ghost Trick build is played like 20% of the time or less than. So I don't know. It's an optional build you can go for, but I think especially now that Pro is at 2, you just play this deck PR. Again, I'm not saying Ghost Trick is bad or has never been good, but I'm explaining to people who have asked why I'm not on it. Cue them not watching this part of the video, then making the comments anyway, because that's what always happens. Anyway, so yeah, extra deck is pretty standard. Have made room for Omega because we are playing Gamma, but otherwise, if you weren't playing Gamma, you could just put in like Sylvan Princess Sprite or something. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about the build itself. Let's break it down card by card and then watch some games. We're on 1 Ciphering Driver, 3 Effect Veiler, 2 Pearly, 2 Per Lily, 3 Maxi, 2 Ciphering Gear Gamma, 3 Ash Blossom Enjoy Spring, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 3 Straight Pearly Street, 3 My Friend Pearly, 1 Cross-Eye Designator, 3 Pearly Happy Memory, 3 Pearly Pretty Memory, 1 Pearly Delicious Memory, 3 Pearly Sleepy Memory, 2 Infinite Permanence, and then 2 Per Leap. That's for the 40 card main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Ciphering Lord Omega, 1 Lyrilusk Assembled Nightingale, 2 Epperly Happiness, 2 Epperly Beauty, 1 Epperly Plump, 1 Epperly Noir, 1 Downward Magician, 2 Experly Noir, 1 Divine Arsenal Awe, Zeus, Sky Thunder, 1 Link Kribo, 1 Relinquished Anima, and then finally 1 SP Little Knight. That'll do it for the list. Let's see some games. So normally for the first game of a deck profile, right, I like to show like, here's this deck's typical turn 1 combo line, so you get an idea of how it plays. We're not going to have that in this video, because we have all going second games, and our first going second game is against Stun. Fun! Alright, so opponent's going to lead with Imseti. It's going to be Horus Stun in particular. I'm definitely going to Gamma that. Absolutely going to Gamma that, no question about it. I do also want to point out that they discarded There Can Be Only One alongside the Imseti, which makes me a little bit anxious about what's in the rest of their hand. Whenever I see an opponent pitch a card with something like Imseti, or like just reveal a little bit of their hand by a discard, it's important to think about, right? It might seem like a nothing kind of innocuous action, but when I see my opponent discard there can be only one, my first thought in my head is, okay, what are the other 3 cards in their hand? What would they have to be that they would discard there can be only one, right? You can presume that there can be only one is the worst card in hand, if that's the case of them discarding it. So it definitely kind of gets you on edge a little bit about what else they could possibly be on, but... Alright, looks like the Deer Servant coming down next to add the Ecclesia by sending the Garura from the extra deck. Garura F is going to let them draw an extra card here. Normal summon Ecclesia. I'm definitely going to Veiler that, so that way they can't, you know, find the punishment. But they actually have Call By in hand, which this is starting to make sense a little bit, right? Why they pitch there can be only one. Remember, they have 2 cards in hand, but one was drawn off Garura. So one of these 2 is the remaining 3rd card that they didn't pitch for Imseti. 2 of the other cards were Nadir Servant and Call By. Them not pitching Call By makes perfect sense. If they were anticipating me ashing their Imseti, I would not have pitched Call By either. Pitching the Nadir Servant, or not pitching the Nadir Servant over there can be only one, I think also makes sense, right? Because the Ecclesia is a body that can be kind of hard to destroy herself sometimes. It also sets up a disruption in the form of the punishment. Also, there can be only one, I will say, not the best in this meta. Mostly due to, I was gonna say Snake Eye, but how often is pure Snake Eye around? And it actually does do a lot against Fire King Snake Eye. So maybe there can be only one is actually just fine here. In any case, they are going to Veiler or Call By my Veiler, adding a punishment. Setting 2. Alright, so obviously one of the sets is punishment. The other 2 cards are unknowns. One was opened with, one was drawn. Alright, so you're going to lead by normal summoning Pearly. Bad kitty, not finding us anything here. We do already have 2 quick play spells though, so it's not the end of the world. I'm going to use the Happy to go for Purrlily. Purrlily F for the My Friend. I figured this would probably bait out the punishment, and sure enough, it seems like that is going to be the case here. So, they're sending Entest on the My Friend, as I expected. Yep. We do still have the Purrly effect for the Pretty Memory here. And then we can make the Epurly Beauty. Alright, now, battling the Ecclesia. Don't get to destroy it, of course, because of its effect, but I don't really need to destroy it, because I'm just going to go for a Zeus here. Because my first thought I remember while I was playing the game was like, oh, I can Beauty to negate Ecclesia and then battle over it. And then I realized, like, oh, or I could just board wipe. And 1 negate versus 1 board wipe, it's like, yeah, board wipe is probably just going to be the way to go. I did not use Zeus during my first turn I summoned it, or during their turn, mostly because I was waiting to see if they would set a card or something, and then end phase I could Zeus. Turns out that's not going to be what they're doing here, so I'll just fire off Zeus on my own turn here. And turns out the last face down card, for those who are curious, was, where is it? Tyrant's Tirade. Tribute 2 monsters. Effects to affect monsters that are activate in the hand or on the field cannot be activated. I think they drew this, honestly, off of Garura. I have a hard time seeing why you would pitch there can be only one and choose to keep this. Meaning that the card they chose to keep, the 3rd one, I think is still in hand at this point. But either way, they don't want to commit it to the board. Unless they get Zeused, right? They're not committing anything to the board. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about stun, right? As annoying and oppressive as it might seem, you know, it's pretty easy to find yourself in this kind of a situation where if you can board wipe, or even just like get any amount of a foothold in the game, stun has a really, really, really hard time recovering, right? Like coming back from plays. Opponent's going to evenly. Of course, I'm just going to keep the Zeus here. So Imperm evenly. Imperm they would have set. I don't think they would have kept evenly. I think that last card might still be in hand. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, because of all the cards my opponent revealed, I don't know if I would have kept any of them before there can be only one. But yeah, I know, like I was saying, like Stun, it's really easy to make out Stun to be this big bad boogeyman, but again, if you're able to go first or get any kind of a foothold in where they can't stop you from doing stuff, you're probably just going to win the duel. I mean, if you look at Stun's win rate on Untapped, it's literally, it's literally always below 50%. Like, Stun is just never a deck that's going to win more than it loses, just due to the nature of how it plays, right? So, I don't know about never. Of course, never say never. But very, very unlikely. We'll leave it at that. All right. So there is our first duel. Let's go ahead and check out the next one. All right, next opponent is on a pretty pure Snake Eye deck, honestly. Not even playing like chicken games or anything. It seems like they are making up the difference in the lack of deck space with like more hand traps, and there can be only ones and stuff, right? So, going second yet again. This hand is phenomenal. Honestly, this hand is ridiculously good. So, I'm gonna lead with Imperm against the Snake Eye Ash, which looks a little weird, but I have multiple Imperms, and if my opponent has a follow-up play, I can use the Gamma on that. So I figured I would use the Disruption I have the most of, especially because I have another copy of it, right? And then we can save the Gamma for a more niche situation. Not necessarily more niche, but I'll definitely do the Gamma here against the Diabell to pull the driver out of my deck, instead of just imperming the Diabell, right? Unfortunately, I should have actually impermed first, because I can imperm and then Gamma, but I can't Gamma and then imperm, right? So my opponent's last couple of cards here being the OSS and the triple attack, definitely not good for me. That is decidedly not good for me. So it looks like they're going to get the Poplar for the Temple anyway. Ash, send to the Flamberge, summon a Burge from deck. Flamberge F for Ash and Oak, and then yeah, they're just going off for Snake Eye plays now. Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason that I Gammaed was because I have Pearly and no quick play spells in hand, right? And I knew I was going to have to lead my turn by normal summoning, so my thought process was, oh, I'm probably not going to get to Gamma during my turn, so I'll do it during theirs to make sure I get the opportunity, like the use out of Gamma while I can, right? But yeah, no, in hindsight, I think I definitely should have just impermed, because again, I failed to think about it, again, the fact that you can imperm then Gamma, but you cannot Gamma then imperm, so. Dramatic Snake Eye Chase, summoning out the IP from the Spell Trap. That's actually kind of annoying, because otherwise I could have impermed the Flamberge during the draw phase. And it's actually a good thing my opponent waited, or did not wait and did it during the draw phase here, because I did top deck the triple attack. Gonna use the imperm to force out the IP. Opponent is in fact going to respond by making a 4-material Appaloosa. And I'm about to perfectly illustrate why I almost never make Appaloosa in Snake Eye. This is a point I've brought up a lot lately as people talk about like Appaloosa and how OP the card is. Now, granted, I know a lot of people TCG side are referring more to like Fiendsmith plays, but people have definitely said Appaloosa should be banned well before Fiendsmith came out. In fact, you know, at this point, during pure Snake Eye, when Borreload and Baron were banned for some reason in the TCG, even though that ban did nothing against the deck and only optimized Snake Eye extra decks, people were also calling for Appaloosa to get banned. But again, I'm about to demonstrate why this card is not ban-worthy. Well, one of the reasons. One of the minor reasons, I should say. And that's because I can just take it with triple... It's not even just about taking it with triple attack, though. It's like... Appaloosa is a card that is that can be so easily controlled by your opponent. Like, I don't know, I've always had the opinion that if you're playing against somebody who's like even halfway decent, okay, maybe not that. If you're playing against a good opponent, right, then you should never expect to get 4 or 3 negates out of Appaloosa, right? Because I see people saying that, like, how is Appaloosa not ban-worthy? It's multiple negates. It's like, it's not. I could not even tell you the last time I resolved an Appaloosa for multiple negates. It almost never happens. Again, when you're in high-level competitive gameplay, your opponent's probably going to force out the Appo to a point where they can battle over it or seal with triple attack. They'll likely have like an imperm or some other like board breaker for. There's just so many ways to answer Appaloosa. And also, I think there's a lot of the time where going IP into SP is just better than going IP into Appaloosa. Now, granted here, I guess it makes a little more sense with me having the imperm on the IP, but still, I don't know. I think especially in Best of 1, you gotta be mindful of triple attack, because it is played more in Best of 1. It's a better card in Best of 1, but... Alright, anyway, I'm going to use the happiness here to battle over a couple of their monsters and get a couple of searches. They get to bring back Raging Phoenix, but I'm not, like, super duper concerned about that. Definitely going to negate the Poplar here. That way you can't put the Flamberge in a spell trap for them to summon off of Temple. Alright, here's Raging Phoenix, and now Happiness gets to add the Pretty Memory. Main phase 2, I'm going to use Pretty Memory, Plump Effects to attach it. Then I can use the Plump Effects to attach... Probably going to end up attaching the Temple, I would guess, right? Oh, and then we also get to summon Pearly from deck. I'm not finding any cards, but I actually don't need to. Oh, I sent my friend, okay. Because now I can link off my Pearly with their Apo to make the SP. And then now I can use SP to banish the Temple. No, I banished the Princess from the yard. Yeah, why would I banish Temple here? Why was I saying that? Like, obviously, it's fine without them having anything in the spell trap. And so not only do I get to make a 7-mat Noir here, but I also get to go for Zeus. The reason I didn't make Downward at first is because I was, like, literally right about to run out of time. Like, I had literally 2 seconds left on the clock. So I was like, yep, no Downer, we'll just go straight into Zeus. Probably won't need the extra material here anyway. Alright, so they're going for that Jet Synchron, Poplar to add the OSS, Poplar effect to place the Flamberge. I'm definitely going to Noir and put the Flamberge back in the deck. That way they can't send it for cost off of the OSS. Another linking into the SP Little Knight. Little Knight effect to target the Noir, but it's unaffected, so that's fine. And then they just concede after that, because I think they realize their misplay. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that was a pretty interesting game to have to fight through. But I really do think that if my opponent had made, like, honestly, I kind of think that maybe just letting the IP get negated was the right call. That's another thing that I see people misplay a lot with particularly IP into Apo, is that, like, and this is why I think, like, Appaloosa, one of the reasons why I think Appaloosa can be very easily manipulated by your opponent. IP is kind of the same way, right? Where if you threaten to negate it or move to battle phase, a lot of times people will be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll IP right now because I have to. But, like, there are a lot of times where my opponent will, like, have one monster on the field with over 800 attack. I have IP and a bunch of other stuff, and they'll go, like, end of main. I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. Because, like, what are they going to do? Battle over my IP and then not kill me that turn? Now, great, so they had an imp, or I had an imperm here, not threatening to go to battle phase, but I don't know. I still honestly do think that if they just not activated IP, they would have been better off. Anyway, we do have one more game to watch before we end off. Let's go into that one. And our final opponent is on Tearlament, but they're not just any Tearlament player. I actually ran into Coops on ladder while I was streaming, Coops being a fan of the channel here. So hopefully you don't mind me showing this game, because I did think it was a pretty solid one. Coops is going to take the first turn here with the Pearl Albino. I'm going to Ash Blossom it. They have a call by for the Ash Blossom, though. Yeah, this is definitely a going second hand if I've ever seen one, for sure. I'm not the luckiest to have drawn the driver alongside the Gamma, but better than having the driver without the Gamma, that's for sure. Not sure how much Gamma is going to come up here because of course, it being Tearlament. But I am actually going to fire it off here, because not only do we stop the Rhino Heart, but, like, if they happen to have a Fuser in hand, in their 3-card hand out of a 60-card deck, then, like, yeah, you know, they can make plays, but I can still Valor the Kickalos. Alright, looks like it's going to be Horus plays here. Summoning the Imseti and Hoppy by pitching a couple of cards from the King Sark. For a Zombie Vampire, but as I said before, we do have the Valor, which I am going to use here. Now, we might have been successful in stopping Coops from doing anything, but we definitely still need to top deck something ourselves. We have a lot of top decks, though. Like, a lot, actually. Alright, so there goes Gamma and Driver. Draw for turn, and we found a quick play spell. So, like, yeah, like, any of the quick play spells, Pearly would have been a fine top deck, My Friend would have worked, Pearly in some situations, depending on what she finds, you know? So, alright, here gonna My Friend for 3 Sleepies, because we already have the Delicious in the yard. Gonna copy said Delicious with the Pearly. going into our plump. From there, I can activate the sleepy memory and then chain the plump to attach. We can get to temporarily banish the zombie vamp, which is good because that'll get rid of its materials. Meaning that Koops can't just like mill as their first play, right? They're gonna have to try to top deck something. Now granted there is the King Sark, but we can also just, yeah, put that back with the Noir, so. Alright, now Koops in a situation where they have to top deck something here, and I think they do, if I recall correctly. Let's see. No, they don't. JK. No, I thought they did for some reason. I thought, well, I knew the game was going to end on this turn, but I thought for some reason they top decked like a Rhino Heart, and then maybe I spun something, and then they conceded, but I guess not. Oh. I thought the game was at least a little more back and forth than that, but I still think it was a pretty solid game, like all things considered. I just, like, I went second, opened a million hand traps, and then top deck Delicious. Like, sometimes you just want it more. But, yeah, regardless, it was still a good game, Koops. You played your turn one very well. I just kind of had everything. So, but, yeah, thanks to everyone for watching, of course, as always as ever. I super duper appreciate it. I think that's about all I've got for this one, so let's just move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up, and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.